So in the metaphor of the Stanford prison experiment, Love Island producers are the guards and islanders are the prisoners. My very old dog would never use generative AI to create slop that I refuse to even put on the board because it's so ugly. Alexi's online. Hi, Alexi here. Welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to say the extremely cool take that I think AI art is ugly. Love Island versus AI Fruit Love Island. So Love Island first premiered as a British show in 2015. It's narrated by Ian Sterling, who takes a minute to get used to, but is actually pretty funny. It's hosted by Ariana Madix, who is really not on the show that much, but when she is on the show, she does do a really good job. Also, Megan Thee Stallion is sometimes there for the US one. Because Love Island UK did so well, there have been a bunch of spin-off shows in Australia, South Africa, and of course, the USA. So Love Island US has actually been around for a while, but I think it really started going viral last season due to messy relationships between contestants such as Huda and Jeremiah. If you've ever heard someone say, "I'm a mom, mommy," "No, I'm a mom, mamacita," they're referencing this clip from last season, season 7.
I'm a mommy.
Mommy?
I'm a mom.
Mamacita.
So what the fuck is Love Island though? Basically, an even number of women and men are paired up and do pretty much nothing except lie in the sun all day and stew in their emotions. They do challenges maybe once an episode that really just involve making out with other people. Sometimes the producers bring in bombshells, new contestants, to seduce people in less strong relationships. There's also this thing called Casa Amor, where either the women or the men go to a different villa, and the producers bring in a bunch of new women for the original men and new guys for the original women so that the original relationships can be tested. America can vote to put islanders in new couples, or sometimes there's just like a random recoupling ceremony where the islanders get to choose. If you're single, you're vulnerable and liable to get dumped from the island. At the end of the season, America votes for a winning couple between 4 couples, and the winners get 100K, I think. And AI Fruit Love Island was a ripoff of that on TikTok. And it was made, this is wild, who could have predicted it, using AI. Also, just a quick note before we continue, if you hear any breathing sounds in the background, that is my very old dog. And my very old dog would never use generative AI to create slop that I refuse to even put on the board because it's so ugly. Do you want to kick him out for doing the bare minimum? I mean, partially that is because he's a dog, but you know. Love Island is unique in the world of dating shows because a new episode is released every day, so you're experiencing pretty much everything the Islanders experience in real time, filtered through the lens of producers. The show is engineered for maximum drama and maximum engagement. As is the case with a lot of reality TV, Islanders' actions are edited to fit character archetypes. Villains, heroes, men who allegedly go on a healing journey or something. And like most media in the good old US of A, it all ends up kinda racist. So the main players you need to know for season 8, which is the season that just wrapped, oh yeah, also there will be spoilers, are Sincere. Did I not print him? Okay, I went and I printed them out because I don't give a f about Sincere, but I do quite like Melanie at the end of the day, so she at least gets to be up on here. So you got Sincere and Melanie that have been together since the beginning of the show. Casey, who was coupled up with Anaya at the beginning of the show, but then he met Titi in Casa Amor and he brought her back. Bryce, who was coupled up with Trinity since the beginning of the show. And we got Zach, who was coupled up with Kata since the beginning. Corbin and Kelsey, who were coupled up for a while.
Yes, I know I'm leaving out hella people. We don't have time, okay?
So all of the men on this show suck. They objectify the women they're with, they egg each other on when one guy wants to explore another connection, then egg each other on again when their current connection gets upset because they cross some sort of line. But the villains of this season are definitely Casey, Sincere, and to some extent Corbin. Notice the pattern? Basically, Corbin said Kenzie was out the window during Casa literally immediately. Sincere lied constantly to Melanie and was always ready to drop her for the newest bombshell, and Casey tried to pressure Anaya for sex, then called her a grandma for refusing, and said some truly horrible things about her in Casa, which, mind you, all the boys defended him for. Both Corbin and Kelsey found other connections in Casa, but Sincere came back to Melanie and downplayed how much he made out with other women he was with in Casa. Meanwhile, Anaya chose not to continue her connection with Carl, who actually went to the same college as me. He was class of 2020, I was class of 2025. Don't go there unless you want to go to a college that has some truly messed up Title IX systems. KC came back from Casa with TT, like I said, which left Anaya single and vulnerable. Don't worry though, America voted for Carl to come back, but he does low-key make for terrible reality TV because he's just like really chill and doesn't really engage in locker room talk with the rest of the men, at least from what we're seeing as the audience. Anyways, my friends and I have always had a theory that Black men in particular on this show are given a bad edit. Last season, there was this one guy, Austin, who was coupled up with Shelley for a lot of the season. Now, he received a pretty good edit overall, whereas the guy Shelley ended up with, Ace, had sort of a villain edit until most of the way through the season. But viewers pretty quickly discovered that this annoying-ass white man, again, Austin, was a Trump supporter. After Love Island ended, he actually said that he couldn't be racist because he had a tattoo of a Black woman on his body.
Are you fucking dumb? Like, honestly, are you dumb? Like, do you not think? I have a Black woman tatted on my side. Use your head.
Which, is giving fetishization. Like, you're not beating the allegations, my guy. But yeah, the objectively shitty guy was given a pretty good edit overall. In this season, Zach and Bryce have said some weird shit. Like, Bryce said that this guy Gabriel getting dumped from the island by the women because he explored multiple connections in a lustful manner. It's very bad to be lustful on this show, guys. Was
because he's promiscuous doesn't mean he's not capable of loving somebody. Yeah. That is like the most slut-shaming shit I've ever seen in my life.
Which never fails to make me laugh. Sometimes I think about it just randomly and I start laughing and then people have to be like, what are you laughing about? And I just have to go, that's the most slut-shamey stuff I've ever heard. Both Zach and Bryce said that Anaya was basically a hypocrite for being mad at Casey for exploring his connection with / bringing back TT because she explored her connection with Carl when she said repeatedly, I'm not mad at him for exploring that connection. I'm mad that he said really horrible things about me. And I don't think anyone is arguing that any of these men aren't complete trash, except for Carl. He's a chiller. But the majority of the hate I've seen online has been directed at KC and Sincere because that's where the editing has been focused. Again, I am not saying that Casey and Sincere are secretly good people. They're just getting the villain edit. What I'm saying is that Zach and Bryce might also be awful. We're just not seeing that due to bias. Erica Hart actually thinks that this pattern goes beyond editing. They argue that it all starts with casting.
Now, this is in no protection of Casey. Absolutely not. What Casey's behavior is deplorable. And this show knew that he would be deplorable. They knew that when they interviewed him. And they still put him on the show to make him literally the fallout guy and to make him look absolutely horrible so that people continue to disparage Black men in particular. And at the expense of a dark-skinned Black woman.
Erica Hart is so cool. Like, if you're not following them, what are you even doing? I think their handle on Instagram is iHeartErica, and they also post some really great stuff on Threads. Meanwhile, both Melanie and Anaya have talked about how they constantly have to be in control of their emotions, with the implication being that they don't want to look like angry Black women. Anaya actually apologized for getting in Casey's face and yelling at him after he brought TT back from Casa, which absolutely is like the mature thing to do, but I do wonder if she felt like she had to do that, otherwise she'd be super harshly judged by America, although she is super harshly judged either way. Trinity has talked about how Anaya feels insecure due to being a dark-skinned woman, as well as her own anxieties about dating a white man. Both she and Anaya have been judged online for dating non-Black people. Oh, also, Kenzie was in a love triangle with Corbin and this guy Caleb, who we don't have on the board, but he's like a white country boy. And Caleb kept saying that Kenzie would probably pick him over Corbin because Corbin was not her usual type, which really is giving Kenzie wouldn't choose a Black man over me. To be fair, Kenzie also definitely said some weird stuff about Corbin. Like, she kept saying, like, I feel like I'm a gazelle being chased by a lion in, like, a sexy way about Corbin, which also feels fetishizing. I didn't like Kenzie that much, but again, that just could be how she was edited. I think that the audience watching Love Island knows that something feels off about the show. We feel like we're at the center of the panopticon. We're observing deep human emotions that we know logically are being manipulated by producers to be as addictive to watch as possible. Challenges are designed to provoke jealousy, bombshells are brought in for maximum drama. The Islanders literally sit out in the sun all day with nothing to do except ruminate on their relationships. Like, my working theory is actually that the Islanders sometimes get common sayings wrong because they're low-key suffering from heat stroke. Do we ever see them drink water? One of my friends compared the whole show to the Stanford prison experiment, which is also a sentiment I've seen a lot online. Let's get into a Psychology 101 segment. So the Stanford prison experiment was conducted in 1971 at Stanford University, because of course it was Stanford, by Dr. Philip G. Zimbardo in like a basement of the psych department. The basement had been set dressed to look like a prison. 24 participants were chosen at random via a newspaper ad and randomly assigned the role of prisoner or guard. The experiment was meant to last 2 weeks, but Zimbardo ended it after 6 days because the guards became increasingly cruel to the prisoners, and Zimbardo himself had internalized the role of prison superintendent too much. Being the guy who conducts the study and being in the study is not typical for psychological experiments, by the way. That's some foreshadowing for you there. Now, what I learned in 9th grade psychology from a teacher that, looking back, was low-key maybe trying to groom some of us, but that's a whole other thing, was that the study showed how easy it is for those in power to begin abusing that power, especially when they've been de-individualized through uniforms, for example. So in the metaphor of the Stanford prison experiment, Love Island producers are the guards and Islanders are the prisoners. This comparison of Love Island to the Stanford prison experiment is, in my opinion, extremely accurate because Zimbardo fully manipulated the experiment. Juliet Eisner made a documentary about the experiment a few years back where she talked to a bunch of the participants. They told her that guards had been coached by Zimbardo and his research team on the best ways to inflict psychological pain. There's literally audio of one member of the research team telling a guard to be tougher on participants. Former guard David Eichelman said, quote, "It was made very clear to us that we were not part of the experiment. We were there to help the researchers get the results from the prisoners that they wanted to see. So our job was to make them uncomfortable, give them a sense of fear, but not to use physical violence. We could do everything else within our power to create fear and took it very seriously because I was on board with what they were trying to do, expose the prison system as evil. Given the zeitgeist at the time, we were all on board with that. Those were the days when anybody with the establishment was automatically evil, and what more evil part of the establishment could there be but the prison system?" One participant, Doug Corpy, had a mental breakdown and had to be removed from the experiment. Except he says he staged the breakdown because the guards weren't allowing him to study for an exam, and he was like, I gotta get out of here, man. Eichelman also says that he was acting during the experiment because he knew what Zimbardo and his team wanted to see. In the article I read about the documentary, Jennifer Ouellette wrote, "In retrospect, the Stanford prison experiment may have more common with reality TV. The industry term has evolved into unscripted TV because of the countless ways the final product is manipulated and shaped over the course of filming. Zimbardo even admits as much in the documentary, calling his experiment the first ever reality TV show." Producers aren't guards in this Stanford prison experiment metaphor. They're Zimbardo. And when America votes for their favorite couple or who to dump from the island, in some ways, we're the research team. Enter AI Fruit Love Island. So AI Fruit Love Island went viral on TikTok in like April. It was animated and voiced by AI and prompted by user ai.cinema021, who I'm gonna just be calling AI Cinema from now on. The characters were based on fruit and had stupid names like Watermelina or Bananito, but a lot of the time they just got called stuff like Banana Boy. I feel like I don't really need to go into the plot or whatever, since there are already hella videos about how it's not realistic because the women fruit like physically fight each other a lot, which you can't do on Real Love Island. Plot twist. And characters change size and appearance a lot because they're shitty AI. Although there were like votes on who should couple up and who should join the island, like in Real Love Island, and like over 300k people would vote. And if you can vote on Fruit Love Island and you're eligible to vote IRL, please go touch some grass at your local polling place. Bananas split to the polls or whatever. Make sure that anti-trans people that want 10 commandments in classrooms don't get elected to your local school board. AI Fruit Love Island went viral, like I said, and it inspired a lot of spin-offs like AI Candy Love Island. But why the fuck was AI Fruit Love Island so popular? I got some theories. It was coming out in April after season 7, and Love Island is a summer show. People were missing their daily drama. It even hit popular beats from season 7 with this cherry girl and whatever her fruit man was basically having the same I'm a mom, mommy, mamacita conversation. It's bright and colorful, it somehow made the fruits sexy, and they're like very short TikTok videos, and we all have very short attention spans these days. The whole thing put together was maybe like an hour long. Yes, I watched it for this video while trying to figure out how to give an Armand from Interview with the Vampire Blythe doll I'm working on gender affirming care. None of those words are in the Bible. Basically, AI Fruit Love Island hits all of these dopamine centers in our brain that Real Love Island does, but it does it like even quicker. And it does all of this without forcing the audience to grapple with the Stanford prison experiment of it all, because none of it is real. Right? Except generative AI, like the type AI Cinema used for AI Fruit Love Island, uses a lot of water. Something that AI Cinema actually made fun of in their several crash out posts over their accounts being banned due to mass reporting for stuff like copyright infringement, which they absolutely were doing. They were fully using the theme music for Real Love Island, which I'm not going to play here because I want the $10 I'm gonna make off this video. But like I said, the creator crashed out over this banning and reporting and ended the series. One of their crash out posts reads, "I'm so glad y'all got what y'all wanted. Saving the planet 3 gallons of water at a time. Truly inspirational. Psych." But like, generative AI, like AI Fruit Love Island, is causing a water and environmental crisis. A UN university study found that, quote, AI-related water consumption could equal the basic and domestic needs of 1.3 billion people by the end of the decade, while its land footprint may exceed 14,500 square kilometers. I'll put that in miles somewhere over here for my Americans like me. Roughly twice the size of the Jakarta metropolitan area. And you know who's using most of that water? The general public. Quote, "Generating a single AI image can require more than 1,000 times the energy of simple text classification, while video generation demands even greater resources." By the way, when I cite this, I'm not letting the large corporations that are pushing AI off the hook. The idea that generative AI is inevitable and we should all be using it and it should be in everything is being pushed by companies like Google and Meta and OpenAI, which then leads to this everyday usage. In addition to water and land impacts, where data centers are built has become what Mario Deshawn Booker calls digital redlining. Quote, "A modern twist on the racist housing policies that segregated American cities decades ago. Just as banks once drew red lines around Black neighborhoods to deny them loans, tech companies now target these same areas for environmental harm." Building data centers to fuel all this AI. Booker's July 2025 study, Digital Redlining, AI Infrastructure, and Environmental Racism in Contemporary America, found that AI data centers, which cause air and environmental pollution, take up a whole lot of water and create heat sinks, aka really hot areas around them, are purposefully contracted in communities that are predominantly Black and brown. Booker argues that where AI data centers are built is insidiously purposeful on the part of the corporations that build them. Quote, corporation site selection documents show sophisticated understanding of racial political geography. Companies explicitly analyze factors like voter turnout, political representation, and past community organizing when evaluating the potential locations. These analyses consistently identify predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods as the ideal sites for facilities that would face impossible opposition in wider, wealthier areas. The deliberate nature of this targeting shows what we're seeing isn't accidental. It's the result of calculated corporate strategies designed to exploit racial power imbalances. To be clear, Booker does point out that this isn't to say that those Black and brown communities aren't fighting back against large corporations and data centers. What he is pointing out, though, is that those communities have fewer resources and support, so then often have a bit less capacity to protest and that sort of thing, but it's still happening. People are still defending their communities. Unless you live near a data center, you don't see these effects. In my opinion, this is why AI Fruit Love Island feels so harmless to so many people. Unlike in real Love Island, watchers don't have to grapple with how voyeuristic and almost wrong watching feels. But just because we don't see the human harm on screen doesn't mean it's not real. And like Love Island USA, that human harm predominantly affects Black and brown people. Also, the fucking fruits end up with black scents whenever they're angry because AI is trained on racist data. Like, oh my god. Thank you so much for watching. My outro song is Take a Vacation by The Young Veins. All channel art is by me. Like, comment, and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much again, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye now.